And I learned early on how important it was to have support and folks who care about you there. Because, again, there were other challenges in my life that would come up. And again, another challenge I remember, again, had to do with school. I was in college, I was going to Rhodes College. The tuition was pretty pricey, and I was struggling. I was having to work. I was working at FedEx at the time in the hub, so my hours like 11 p.m. to like that 4 a.m. in the morning, and then I had a full load, and I was doing a work study, so it was a lot, and I wasn't really enjoying college, quite honestly. It was just much, and I remember I had an early morning class and I love the class now, but apparently I was tired that morning and I fell asleep in class. And all I remember is my professor at the time walking over to me and slamming the book on my desk, and I jump up. I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. And I just jumped up and he was like, let's talk after class.
Hey, it's Summer Owens, and I'm back with another edition of So What Success Stories. And that is the stories of people who have achieved success in spite of the obstacles they may face in their lives. Today, I have the pleasure and the privilege to be interviewing my friend, Olliette Murry-Drobot. And I met Olliette, these years go by so fast, don't they? Maybe 10 years ago. It was close to 10 years ago, I think, when I first received my first book. And I met, I think we were introduced by someone who thought my program might be a good fit for what you're doing. Didn't know that we were going to end up becoming friends and staying connected long after you weren't even working there and doing that kind of work. And I'm super grateful, and I'm really excited to be talking to you and sharing your story in my platform, because you've done it before. She's a TEDx speaker. And she's already shared, she's already been out there, but now she's sharing it through So What. So Olliette, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. So I am the Chief Executive Officer of O2 Strategic Partners. So
I was supposed to say that part. Look, sorry.
Like, I'm so excited to get it out there.
And I was so excited to talk about everything. Yes, CEO, go for it.
Yeah, so maybe a year and a half or 2 years now, I stepped down from being the executive director of a nonprofit organization called the Family Safety Center, and kind of took a partial sabbatical and decided to kind of strike out on my own and start my own business up.
That is awesome. That's awesome. So you're from Memphis, right?
Yeah, born and raised. Well, I was born across the bridge in West Memphis, Arkansas, but I've been over here long enough that I'm a Memphian. Yeah.
I say the same thing. I've been here my entire adult life. So I was like, yeah, I'm a Memphian. I'm a Memphian too. Well, good. So I know you have so much more in you and so much more to share. So we'll get into the questions so you can share a little bit more. So in this program, I have what I call the So What Success System. And that's when people can learn how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate their choices. I believe they can have what I call so what success. And that's success in spite of any challenges that you might face. Now, Olliette, you don't strike me as a girl who's had this perfect life with no challenges.
Right, it would not be me.
Yeah, and we've talked enough for me to know some of the challenges that you face. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I would just say starting off, parents were young. My mom was 16 when she had me. My dad was only a few years older. It was a pretty rocky relationship. There was some violence there, and so starting out, it was fairly rough. And I lost my dad at an early age when I was 7. And despite some of his challenges, I was a daddy's girl. I was very close to him, so that had a profound impact on my life. And I would say I went through a pretty challenging time right after we lost him. I remember being in the second grade, and it's about the time he passed away. And I was struggling in school, and the teacher, shared with my mom, it looked like I was gonna have to repeat the second grade. And my mom just, she was the advocate, and she pleaded and said that she would work with me over the summer and all of that. So I remember getting hooked on phonics because I was having a hard time
Really?
with reading. Yeah, my mom got hooked on phonics. And I realized that they realized that I needed glasses. So I couldn't see the board. So I
And
almost
that was the
failed the
problem,
second
huh?
grade. I failed the second grade, and due to my mom just being a strong advocate and getting in there and talking to the teacher, I was able to pass the second grade. And it's kind of funny when I look back on that because I now have two graduate degrees. And when you think back, I almost failed the second grade, and then I went on to love school. Yeah, that's just like one of the notable challenges, early on in my life. And,
And
and,
I
and
think,
um,
let me pause
yeah,
real quick because I think that's a great story to share, right? Because whether it's second grade or fifth grade, 10th grade, or whatever, a lot of us in our educational journeys may have a point like that, right? Where it's
right.
really difficult or it's really challenging, or we feel like we're failing, or we maybe are failing, maybe we actually did fail. So
Hmm.
I'm glad you shared that story, how on the other side of it, you're like, yeah, I like school. And not only did
Right.
I like it so much, I kept going, um,
Hmm.
and have been
Yeah.
successful. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I know I was gonna say, and I learned early on how important it was to have support and folks who care about you there, because again, there were other challenges in my life that would come up. And again, another challenge I remember again had to do with school. I was in college. I was going to Rhodes College. The tuition was pretty pricey, and I was struggling. I was having to work. I was working at FedEx at the time in the hub, so my hours like 11 p.m. to like that 4 a.m. in the morning, and then I had a full load, and I was doing a work study, so it was a lot, and I wasn't really enjoying college, quite honestly. It was just much, and I remember I had an early morning class, and I love the class now, but apparently I was tired that morning and I fell asleep in class. And all I remember is my professor at the time walking over to me and slamming the book on my desk, and I jump up. I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. And I just jumped up, and he was like, let's talk after class. And he became a mentor and a good friend of mine.
Oh,
And
wow.
he worked to make sure I had enough, student loans or grant money so I could leave FedEx. And so I would not have to work at FedEx,
Oh,
all that
wow.
time. Yeah, so he again going back to how, people who care about me, mentors in my corner who advocated for me. Yeah, because it was a really tough time. And I ended up, working with him again. He became my mentor, he became my advisor, and I really discovered what I was really passionate about because of the work we worked on together, and I ended up doing an independent project working with him. And I found my passion, and I decided I wanted to be an anthropologist. So yeah.
That's awesome. And it's so, I hear so much in that story, but one thing that stood out for me was he slammed the book down, woke you up.
Yes.
He woke you up, and then he literally woke you up too. It's like,
Yes.
oh, okay, I can't be doing this. But he stepped
Right.
in also to support you. And I'm grateful for the support that I had in college too, because I had the challenge of, I was taking a full load, and I was working, I was a student leader, and I had a child. And so I had a
Mhm.
lot going on in college too. But I had that support as well. But I think it's really important to know, is for people watching this, that people don't always just step in and support. And I'm sure he didn't just step in and be like, oh, let me help you. It was because he saw that you were working hard. You
Yes.
were asleep on in class, not just because you were bored and didn't like what you were asleep in class because you were working so hard, and that's why you got that
Yeah.
help. That's why
And and he cared enough to want to find out what was going on with me, and what was my life story and what was happening in my life, right? And so I just greatly appreciate it, because it was hard. It was and I was and again, I was working hard. I wanted to graduate. I wanted to enjoy school, but it was challenging at the time. It really was.
Yeah, looking back on it and look at you now. So, okay, so the second part of the So What success system, after you've learned how to overcome obstacles, is eliminating excuses. Because, and I even know some people who have this story, have that they have to work, so they
Hmm.
can't go to school. And
Yeah.
and it's understandable. But what are some, because you could have made that excuse, right? It's like, I can't
Right.
go to school. I gotta quit because I need to work, or I
Right.
can't afford to go to school. What are
Right.
some excuses that you had to eliminate from your life so that you could be successful and get to
Right. Yes. The fact that things were hard, they were very challenging. I didn't have the resources that other students had. As many other students, they came from well-off families, upper middle class families, right? And they've been exposed to a lot of things that I had never been exposed to. They had already traveled the world. They had already had internships and big companies and all of that. And I didn't have all of those things. However, I knew, I was a hard worker. I had the drive. I had the passion. I wanted to succeed. I had support. And so I felt like I had tools to utilize, and I was going to do something with them. I was determined that I was going to graduate from college.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's life, right? And that's still your life, my life, and everybody's life to this day, is that we won't always have all of the resources that
Right.
somebody else might have, but we can have the same goals. We can have the same dreams, and we have to use the tools that we have and not use as an
Right.
excuse that we don't have what somebody else has to make it happen.
Yes.
The
Right.
next part of the SOA success system is calculating choices. And
Mm.
you have made, and I've watched some of your choices, some calculated choices in your life
Right.
to get to where you are today. Talk about some of the choices that you made, and how you made those choices.
Sure. A few. One, I decided to stay in Memphis. My family is here. I'm very close to my nieces and nephews. And when my niece just graduated from high school maybe a month ago. And I remember when she was smaller, she said, "TT, I need you to stay in Memphis while I'm in school." And I agreed to that. I did, because I wanted to be there. I'm like a second mama to my nieces
Uh-huh.
and nephews. I wanted to be in their lives, and that was just a really important thing to me, to have family nearby. And so I decided to stay in Memphis, and I decided that I wanted to make Memphis a better place so I could use my skills and experience here. I would say other choices was, when I decided to become the executive director of the Family Safety Center. It was a very new initiative.
And I
And
actually remember when it started. I remember.
yes, and it was a very new initiative. People were kind of holding their breath to see whether it was going to make it or not. And I remember someone saying to me, if you are able to make this successful, you can pretty much write your ticket and go anywhere. However, if it is a failure, your name will be tied to this forever.
No pressure.
Right, no pressure. So it was a pretty big risk to take this, this new thing that no one was really sure that it would work in Memphis. And so I took the leap. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I've always, taken some risk. I've always followed my heart, and my passion, and I decided to do it. I stayed there almost, gosh, 9 years. And I decided I really wanted. So the Family Safety Center consumed my life. It was just my passion. It was my love, and it pretty much took over my life. Now I had I had made some choices. I wasn't very balanced. That was one reason I wasn't very balanced. And I decided that I, wanted more work-life balance in my life. And I decided to step down because it was a pretty highly stressful job, very fast paced, 24/7. Domestic violence doesn't happen within office hours. So there are a lot of times that I would be on the phone with someone 2 o'clock in the morning on the weekends, whatever was going on and happening. And so I decided that it was time for me to get my life back and to
Sure.
enjoy some other things. And I think it's been one of the best decisions that I've made. And it was tough because for almost 9 years, people knew me as the executive director of the Family Safety Center.
And I know
And,
that's not your title anymore, and
right.
I still see you that way. And luckily, it did do well, and so your name will be tied to it forever. So it's on the
Yeah.
positive side of that.
Yes, 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 yes.
In a positive way. That is awesome. We'll talk a little bit about what you're doing now.
Sure. So I'm an independent consultant. So I operate my own firm. And so the work that I do is mostly with women-led organizations and people of color-led organizations, mission and mostly mission-driven organizations that are doing work, I would say, in terms of trying to improve Memphis, trying to bring about equity in terms of racial, gender. It could be around sexual orientation. And so I've been utilizing my experience and knowledge of all those years. I've been working in the nonprofit sector to help folks get programs off the ground, to help them get their organizations off the ground and grow. And I also work with folks around community engagement because I think one of the key things is we have a lot of great organizations here. And for those organizations to keep in mind who they're serving, who their clients are, and to make sure they're continuing to reach out to those clients to get input, to get feedback. Because I think there are insights that folks who are directly impacted by those issues that they have that other folks just don't have, right? We just don't think about. So really engaging with helping organizations to really engage with folks that are directly impacted by the issues that they're working on. And I've done some public policy work as well. So, and then I've also really enjoyed doing some, mentoring and coaching for new leaders also. So that's been really fun. I get to work on different projects, get to work with different organizations, and I love it. I
That's
do. I love
awesome.
it.
That is awesome. I remember when you made the decision and we went to lunch and we like, welcome to the entrepreneur world.
I know, right?
It's a lot of work. But
Look, I think I work harder now. I swear I worked very hard at the Family Safety Center, but now I think I work even harder.
it's so funny because I hear you loud and clear. I'm like, welcome to this world. It's a lot of work, but it is a lot of fun and it's very rewarding. But yeah, I'm just like you. I'm like, yeah, I thought I worked a lot at FedEx. I had a normal. That was my job where I worked normal business hours. But my other jobs, when I worked for the Memphis Grizzlies, I worked normal business hours plus games plus events, weekends. My service master, I traveled all the time. And so I was working all the time. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, no, I would not do this again. And then, hello, I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm like, okay, I'm working. What are you doing working? I have people call me all the time. What are you doing working? I'm like, but it's okay because I love the work that I'm doing. And just like like
Yes.
you said, it's fun. And probably just like your work, more than it being fun, it's impactful and it's life
Yeah.
changing. So salute
Yes.
to you for making that
Yeah.
step, and we're in this together.
Yes, we are. We are.
So Olliette, by the world standards and by probably most people's standards, you have been successful. You've been successful in your career. You're married. You're happily married. I know of that. You've been successful
Yeah.
in that. So by most people's standards, you're successful. But how do you
Mhm.
personally define success?
Really, it's been by the goals that I've had and whether or not I achieve those goals, and also just being able to live my values. And so, dignity and respect are, two important values to me. And so being able to just demonstrate that in the work that the work that I do. And I will say my definition of success has changed over time now that I'm older, right? Because at one time it really was climbing the ladder, wanting to be executive director of an organization. That was a big goal of mine, and I did that. And now has really been to have more of a work-life balance. I mean, I'm older now, right? I want to spend more time with my family. Over the last year, I've gotten back into hobbies that I hadn't really had time to do for a long time. I started drawing again, started writing again. And so just being able to do things that bring me joy and spending time with my husband and our two dogs. And yeah, and we recently downsized about 2 years now because I wanted to be, closer to, I would say, the action and just places I love to go to. So that was a big deal for us because
Sure.
we had lived in one house for 16 years.
What-
So you can imagine the stuff that we had to move, right? And then we moved into a smaller house. But I would just say, yeah, right now it's been really just having more of a work-life balance and being just to enjoy things that I love to do.
It's so funny you say that. I was actually on Clubhouse earlier today in a room, and that was the question is how do you define success? And I always ask that in these interviews. And so I was asked today, I was on the stage and I was asked today, and my answer was essentially the same as yours. I started out just like you did. It's like, it's changed over time. It has changed over time. And it used to be about, what's my title? What's my salary?
Yes.
And now it's about joy, peace, and freedom. And that's
Yes.
exactly what you just described.
And I will say this, I will say this, it was a struggle for me to give up that title because I had a lot of visibility. Folks would see me walking around town and they would recognize my voice and say, I have seen you on TV, right? And so so folks knew me by my title and the work that I did. And so when I was going through that transition and I was working with a life coach, she said to me, she's like, now, aren't you still gonna be passionate about the things and care about the things you care about now? I was like, well, yeah. Well, aren't you gonna still be involved with organizations? I said, yeah. Don't you still serve on some boards of directors? I said, yeah. She's like, so nothing has changed. I mean, the title is changing, but you're still doing the work and still involved in the work and supporting it. You just supporting it in a different way.
And that was,
So I had to think about that. Yeah.
oh yeah. And
Right.
in my mind, and probably in a lot of other people's minds, you have the title.
Right. I just have a CEO now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and even there at the Family Safety Center, I was like, okay, you've had the title, and even in my role, honestly, I know exactly what you're saying, exactly how you feel. In my role as the president of the National Alumni Association, it's some similar feelings in that, but it's like, you know what? A title is just a title, and sort of the beauty in the title is you had it. Nobody can ever take that away from you.
Right.
And you had the experience, you got the knowledge, and you got the connections and the resources. And it's power and prestige even when you talk about being able to walk around town and people know your name and have heard your voice. You walked away from that title. Well, she's able to walk away from that. What's she doing now?
Right. And I walked away from it at a time that I wasn't really clear about my path. I've always had like a 3 to 5 year plan, and I really didn't know. I just knew that it was time for me to step down and do something else. And when folks were asked, I was like, well, I'm on sabbatical. And I think people were really shocked, like, who steps out of position, right? And not clear about their path. And I realized, that's the path less traveled. But, a lot of people don't do that, right? And I did somewhat step out on faith. And I just knew, and I was listening to my heart and my body, right? And I knew that was the right thing to do.
Well, you just described me leaving FedEx too. I didn't know exactly what I was doing either, but I knew I was leaving, and people thought I lied. So we're in Memphis, and probably all over the country and even the world, people see it the same. You don't leave FedEx.
Right. You don't leave FedEx, right? You know,
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? But you did, and you have been successful in by any definition, really. But here's my last question for you.
Sure.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to be successful, however they define success, but they're running into obstacles? Now, this could be a young person, it could be a college student, could be a young professional or a seasoned professional or an entrepreneur like us. But what advice would you give to someone, just general advice would you give to someone who is facing some obstacles, but they want some success?
Yeah, thank you for asking it. And I don't have a simple answer to that. It's kind of multi-tiered. I was like, one, surround yourself by people who've, achieved some things, but have gone through some things to achieve those things, right? You and I have been friends for a long time. And you were one of the first folks I reached out to when I decided I'm gonna make this switch, because I was seeing, things that you've been able to do. And I know there have been challenges and bumps along that road. So one, reaching out to folks who are doing what you want to do, have gone through some things and been able to conquer those things and move through them. I would say that. I will say, just hope has been huge. Just keeping hope. I feel like I can deal with anything for a period of time. If I can see the other side of it, the light at the end of the tunnel, I can deal with some things.
I like that.
As long as I keep my eye on the prize, I feel like I can go through, I can deal with whatever may come my way, as long as I know what I'm reaching for. And I will say also, just being clear with yourself in terms of what success means to you. Because I will tell you, there were folks that had a harder time than I did releasing my title. There were folks who like, you're insane? You're executive director, and there are not that many Black women in Memphis who are executive directors of nonprofit organizations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for a long time, I felt this obligation to stay in that role, because I knew it wasn't that many Black women in these type of leadership roles, right? So there were folks that were trying to talk me out of it, and I didn't share it. I didn't share it with my mom. By the time I told my mom I was doing it, I had already submitted my letter of resignation. Because again, I knew there were going to be others. So I think being very clear about what you want. And I will also say, I've always listened to my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned over time to trust my intuition. And I would say that to anyone: trust your intuition. Be clear about what you want, because others may think they know what you need, but they don't know you as well as you know. You know yourself better than anyone else. Absolutely. And I'll say, trust yourself. Trust yourself.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Olliette. I know this is going to help somebody. This is going to help somebody in so many ways. And I'm just honored and excited. And I think about the day we met, and I'm so glad that we connected, and then we connected on a personal level, like right away.
Yeah. We did. We clicked right away.
I was like, dang, I'm telling her all my business. She's telling me all her business. And we didn't even talk about business. Okay.
I know.
But it's been a blessing. It's been a joy. And I look forward to all that you're going to accomplish as an entrepreneur. I look forward to what we're about to be doing together.
Yes.
I'm really excited about it. And I'm excited about all the people that I know your story is going to touch. So thank you so much. I love you, lady.
Love you too. And thank you for interviewing me today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.